Hello, my dear students. I'm Dr. Vaishali Bharambe, Professor Anatomy. So you must be thinking that ma'am is going to teach us something related to voyages. And what are these old? This is a very old, nice looking image of some voyage. Yes. Why did sailors in long voyages develop bone and joint pain? That's an important question. 6 healthy men went to sea, but within weeks their bones began to fail. Why? That's a question. Okay. And if you want to be able to answer what used to happen to people, seamen on boats, and why they used to fall sick after prolonged journeys, then you need to understand the microscopic structure of bone. It's a fantastic story. Okay. End of the lecture, I'm going to give you the story. Okay, come, let's begin. So today we are studying the microscopic structure of bone, and I am very happy to acknowledge the fact that VB Anatomy proudly presents microscopic visuals sourced from histologyguide.org, created by Braley and Sorensen from University of Minnesota, USA. We deeply appreciate their contribution in making authentic histology education accessible worldwide. Thank you so much. Right, so all the slides you're going to see are coming from their fantastic collection. Come. So let's define bone. I'm sure you can do it. It's a highly vascular, constantly changing. Please note this. Highly vascular, constantly changing, mineralized, specialized connective tissue, which performs a lot of functions. Now, there's no point in discussing something like this. You know its protection, storage of minerals, framework of body, area of attachment of muscles, and so much more. So that is bone. You know what is bone? I know what is bone. Okay? But what we want to do is understand its microscopic structure. I have said a sentence that it is a connective tissue, but we are calling it specialized connective tissue. Right? So, any connective tissue is made up of cells and extracellular matrix, correct? Then what is different? Bone also has cells and extracellular matrix, but the extracellular matrix in bone is mineralized. There is deposition of calcium and so many other minerals, and that is what is unique, making this connective tissue very hard. And that is the unique feature of bone, making us call it a specialized connective tissue. Right. So with this basic concept that it's a specialized connective tissue in which extracellular matrix is mineralized. We know this. Let's look at this bone and understand a few terms. Okay. This is a section through the femur. It is showing you an outer compact bone, an inner spongy bone, outer covering of periosteum, inner lining of endosteum, and inside that a medullary cavity containing bone marrow. Clear? This is basic introduction. You should know this much. Right. Let's talk about microscopic organization of bone. Bone is a specialized connective tissue. We just started the lecture with it. That means it's made up of cells and extracellular matrix. The extracellular matrix is made up of fibers and ground substance. This is something we've done repeatedly, right? So, which cells? Following cells. Which fibers? Following fibers. Which ground substance? Here is the uniqueness. It is ground substance is organic as well as inorganic. Inorganic is the part which is the mineral which makes the bone unique and hard. So, we're going to study all of these quickly. So, let's talk about osteoprogenitor cells. Osteoprogenitor, they are stem cells. They give rise to other osteoblasts. They are present in periosteum, they are present in endosteum, okay? And they give rise to osteoblast, okay? Right. So, osteoblasts are osteoprogenitor cells, which are bone-forming cells. That means what do? What do I mean by bone-forming cells? They will be found beneath periosteum, beneath endosteum, on the surface, giving rise to what is called as an osteoid. Now, please note this down. This is very important. What is an osteoid? Okay. Osteoid is unmineralized organic matrix of bone. That means whatever material is there in the bone without the mineral is called as an osteoid. When you add mineral to it, okay, bone is formed. Together, this leads to the formation of osteoid and its mineralization is how bones are formed. Osteoblasts finally, after producing bone, form osteocytes. Now, this is a lot of theory I'm giving you, right? Come, I'll show you some images. You will understand like this. So here are osteoblasts. You can see how they are laying down collagen. Okay, they're trying to make bone. So what they do, they start to lay down collagen. See, they're laying the collagen down randomly, okay? Note that. So this, what they have laid down, okay, collagen, a ground substance, is called as an osteoid. Now what happens? Slowly calcium gets deposited there, okay? When calcium gets laid down, okay, the collagen swells up and cannot be seen separately very well, and this is called as a bone lamellus. Who produced the whole thing? The osteoblasts. Produced collagen, produced organic matrix, calcium deposition, collagen fibers disappear, formation of one lamellus. Now what happens next? Osteoblasts begin to grow next layer of bone. Same thing happens. Okay. You can see that osteoblasts have moved away. They have laid down collagen fibers. Okay. There is calcium deposition. There is formation of the second lamellus. Got it? But something else has happened. You can see that. I can see it. These are the osteocytes. What happened? Osteoblasts got stuck between the very two layers they were creating. And those osteoblasts formed osteocytes. What are osteocytes going to do? They're going to maintain those layers. They have a job of maintenance. Osteoblasts are the ones who are creating. Okay? It's like there is somebody who creates a museum painting. But there is also the museum manager who manages those paintings, isn't it? Takes care of them, maintains them, cleans them, protects them. So osteocytes are those managers. Osteoblasts are the creators. Okay? So that's your next layer. So you see how layer by layer, lamellae by lamellae, your bone is formed. And as new lamellae are formed, a few osteocytes are formed, stuck between the two lamellar layers. Right? So come, let's zoom in. Osteoblasts, first lamellus, second lamellus, third lamellus, osteocytes stuck between lamellus. Collagen fibers not clearly visualized because now they are swollen up and they have calcium deposition around them. And this is called as a lamellar bone. Osteoblasts will keep moving away, creating more and more lamellae. This is how a lamellar bone is formed. What is woven bone? Question. Interesting, often asked, important. Right. So whenever a new bone is laid down, it's called as woven bone. Why? Because it looks very rough. It's very rough. It's not the beautiful smooth bone that you see. It's quite rough. Collagen fibers are irregular. Everything is a mess. But it's there. It's not even mechanically strong. It's weak bone. Right? Slowly with time, it will be replaced by lamellar bone. Such woven bone is found in fetal skeleton. It is found at places where you have a fracture and new bone is formed during healing. All that is a woven bone. Now, what is the next bone that will be formed? Lamellar bone. This woven bone will be resorbed and new bone will be formed, which is more even. Collagen fibers are parallel, neat and tidily arranged. It is therefore much stronger. And that is called as a lamellar bone. It is found in adult compact bone. Okay? Right. So students, if you're enjoying this lecture, do please like, share and subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon. Please visit my website vbanatomy.com for more of such lectures, detailed diagrams, surgical anatomy videos and MCQs. Right. So coming back to the lecture. Let's talk about those little osteocytes that got stuck between the lamellae. So here you are seeing the osteocytes, which are mature bone cells. Osteoblasts are like, they're producing, they're hyper. Osteocyte is a mature person, stuck between lamellae. Okay? They are found between lamellae in tiny spaces which are called as lacunae. These are osteocytes, these are lamellae. And can you see the lacuna, the space in which the osteocyte exists? And you can see that these lacunae are communicating with each other through fine tunnels which are called canaliculi. Okay, so what do the osteocytes do? They give out processes through the canaliculi, communicate with each other. Why? Because nourishment passes through like this. If this is where there is nourishment, it passes through canaliculi, nourishes osteocyte, further the next osteocyte, and through this the surrounding lamellae get their nourishment. It's bone, right? It's hard tissue. How nourishment is going to pass through is going to be a very important part of the existence of the bone. Okay, so that's why our understanding this concept is crucial. What do osteocytes do? They maintain bone, they resorb and help maintain the structure of the bone. Now this survey, I don't know if it works for you, it works for me, this image. These are osteocytes in the lacuna. These are its processes which are lying in the canaliculi. This is exactly how they exist, holding on to each other, creating tunnels through which nourishment is passing through. So what is osteocytic osteolysis? So what happens sometimes is when you need a bone, your body needs calcium. Okay, so what the body does is it urgently goes into the bone and quickly removes calcium. It's an urgent need. Okay, this is done by parathormone to raise calcium levels in the blood. Okay, now it does not destroy the bone structure, unlike osteoclastic bone resorption, which breaks down the matrix. This is just a quick call on the bone to supply calcium. It's called osteocytic osteolysis. It is removal of calcium by osteocytes. Right. So what are osteoclasts? I love to imagine osteoclasts as creatures which are going around eating bone. Okay, it makes it more interesting and more fun for me. Right. So these are bone removing cells. Like I told you, bone is constantly changing. If it is going to change, somebody will produce, but somebody has to remove also. That removing is osteoclast. So osteoclasts are large multinucleated cells which are attaching to the bone surface. They literally go and they get attached to the bone and begin to eat the bone. Okay, I'll show you how that happens. And it's able to dissolve the mineral and the organic matrix under the influence of parathormone. Okay, what they result in is called osteoporosis. Come, I'll show you this. Now here you are seeing a beautiful pink colored cell which is an osteoclast. You can see it is attached to a portion of the bone, okay, and that's the bone that's getting resorbed. The part of the osteoclast which is doing the slow breaking of bone has become ruffled here. It's called as the ruffled border. And this space, white space here, is called as a clear zone, into which it's going to release the acid for resorption of the bone. Okay. Here you can see that there is a little depression in the bone. That depression where eating of bone is happening by the osteoclast is called as a Hauschip's lacuna. Say it once. Hauschip's lacuna. Okay. So what the osteoclast will do, it will release carbonic acid and digest the organic matrix, resulting in bone resorption. This is the process of bone resorption. And what are Hauschip's lacuna is a very common Viva question. Do please revise it. Right. So cells are done. There are bone lining cells. I won't touch on them. So let's talk about extracellular matrix, the fibers and the ground substance. Collagen reticular elastic fibers are found in bone. Which type of collagen? Type 1. Right. Let's take a look at collagen fibers. Now, they are arranged in layers. Remember lamellae? But the collagen in one set of lamellae, fibers are parallel to each other. This is one lamellus. See how fibers are parallel. But in the next lamellus, fibers are at an angle to the first one. In the next layer, they are again at an angle to the next one. This gives the bone strength as well as resilience. In each layer, the Collagen fibers are parallel but at an angle to the next layer. Think about it. I think the image will help you to understand what I'm saying. So this kind of makes it very strong. The matrix now into which the collagen fibers are released is organic and inorganic. Organic matrix you've already done with connective tissue made up of glycosaminoglycans, proteoglycans, glycoproteins. Okay, and they're going to anchor the collagen fibers to the rest of the matrix. Students, for detailed anatomy lectures, surgical anatomy videos, MCQs, do visit my website vbanatomy.com. Link is in the description section. Right. So I have a question for you. Let's take a pause. Okay, think. What will happen if you burn a bone? If you took a bone and you burnt it, which is what happens when people die and we burn. What happens to the bone? See, the bone has an organic part and an inorganic part. So organic part gets burnt. So now that which is holding the stuff together is gone. So the bone becomes very brittle, and if you drop it, it will literally crumble. That is what happens when you burn a bone. Okay? Right. But there is also that inorganic part of bone which we have not studied, the mineral part of it. So deposited between in the organic part are certain crystals of minerals which are called hydroxyapatite crystals. Please remember the word hydroxyapatite crystals. Okay? Along with some calcium phosphate and a lot of other minerals. All this now gets deposited in the bone in between the organic matrix. This makes your bone so hard. Okay? And that is what makes it rigid and hard, the unique feature of this specialized connective tissue. Now question, how can you remove the hardness of a bone? Can you make a bone soft? What did Harry Potter do to lose all the bone mineral of his bone? Remember how his hands were flopping here and there? Yeah, that was an excellent use of the wand. But otherwise, if you want to remove the hardness of a bone, what you can do is just take the bone and drop it in acid. Okay? As the acid slowly removes the mineral content, you can actually tie the bone into a knot. I've done that several times. If your head of the department permits it, try it out. It's a fun experiment and gives you a very good idea of what a mineral actually does for the bone. Okay? So such a bone is called as a decalcified bone and often is used for making microscopic structure sections of the bone. See, bone is so hard, how are you going to slice it? So sometimes you can decalcify it a bit and then slice it for making slides. Right. So now, finally, let's understand. Hardness of bone is because of the mineral content. The resilience and toughness of the bone is because of the organic constituents, the collagen and the organic round substance. So now that we've got a little bit about the microscopy of the bone, let's now understand the microscopic structure of a section of bone. Okay, so this was a section of bone, you know it. Okay, we're going to cut it. Okay, question is, what is meant by ground section of bone? Is it stained? So, concept of ground section of bone. Okay, so what is ground section? See, you're going to be able to cut the bone, right? It's too hard. So what do? You take fine chips of bone, okay? And you begin to grind it on a grinding stone. Not grind it like that. You take a chip, use your finger and you begin to slowly, rotate that chip till it becomes extremely thin and translucent. I've put up an image here for you. This is how translucent that bone becomes. Such a section created by grinding is called as a ground section of bone. Funnily enough, all the cells that are there in that have fallen out. What it is just the extracellular matrix. Most of the cells have fallen out in the process of grinding. Okay, I'll talk more about this as we proceed. So this is a transverse section of the bone. As you can see, it is covered by periosteum, lined by endosteum. Periosteum covers all bones. It's very vascular. It has an outer fibrous layer and inner cellular layer. The inner cellular layer has got osteogenic property and is crucial in fracture healing. This is so important that there is no way you can not know this. The inner lining of periosteum is important in healing of fractures. So here you are seeing a bit of bone. This is the periosteum, which is crucial for blood supply of bone, which is crucial for repair of bone, which is crucial for attachment of ligaments to bone, and it gives shape to the bone. So that's how important your periosteum is. Something we don't even think about when we are talking bone, right? Okay. So we know that it's responsible for healing. If you tear a periosteum, if you just pick a periosteum off the bone, you will be surprised that the space that got created gets filled up with new bone. That's how your tubercles, your tuberosities are formed. As the muscle and the ligaments keep pulling on the periosteum lifts a little from the bone. Quickly, bone gets formed to fill the gap. Okay? Think about it. Come. So now endosteum works in a very similar manner, so I'm not going to talk about it. We will now go to the basic structure of bone. I've already told you, bone is a lamellar structure, right? So you can see lamellae here, 3 lamellae, just for the sake of understanding. And you can see that between the lamellae, there are gaps called lacunae. And these gaps are, of course, occupied by osteocytes. Go back to that point when we discussed formation of bone. So lamellae with osteocytes stuck in between, but those osteocytes are formed in a gap. The gap is called as a lacuna. So here's a lacuna. Here are the beautiful osteocytes, and they are communicating with each other through bony canals called canaliculi. What are they doing? They're just giving out processes, one process, second process, third process, which are staying in touch with each other, allowing nutrition to make its way between the bony lamellae. Bone is hard, nutrition has to pass from one lamellus to the other. Canaliculi are the only way this can happen. Okay? Who helps in passage of all this? The osteocytes, which are therefore said to be bone maintaining cells. Okay? Right. So now you've got a basic idea that bone is in a lamellar form. Supposing you were to bend these lamellae to form a circle, right? You've got one lamellus, second lamellus, third. They're all arranged in the form of a circle, in the center of which a blood vessel is passing. So can you imagine that this blood vessel will give rise to nourishment that passes through canaliculi to the osteocyte, through canaliculi to the next osteocyte, and that's how nourishment will spread from the central blood vessel to the periphery. Can I have a lot of such lamellae? I can't, because nourishment also has its limits. It can't endlessly spread. So usually there is a limit to the number of lamellae that are arranged in such a manner, right? So this structure that you are seeing has a central canal called the Haversian canal containing blood vessels and nerves. Surrounding it are layers concentrically arranged lamellae here with gaps in it called lacunae, which contain osteocytes which we know have fallen off in the process of grinding, but ideally in a living man they contain osteocytes, right? Communicating with each other through canaliculi. Such a structure is called as a Haversian system or an osteon. Very important, comes as a short note. Okay, so Haversian system or an osteon. Now, this is a microscopic real slide of Haversian canal in the center. These are the lamellae. These are the lacunae containing osteocytes. And these are the canaliculi through which the nourishment is moving outwards. Did you see that there are just a few layers? Because nourishment is not powered by some kind of power behind it. It's just going to pass through. So there's a limit to how many layers it will be able to cross. So there's a limit to the number of lamellae around any Haversian canal. Right. So that's the Haversian system, or also called as osteon. Excellent. So students, if you're enjoying this, then do visit my website vbanatomy.com for more such detailed lectures, for more MCQs, for more draw and label videos, surgical anatomy videos. Right. So that's my osteon, Haversian canal plus lamellae around it. Okay. Such an osteon runs longitudinally. If this is the bone, then such Haversian canals are and Haversian systems are running longitudinally. So, the lamellae which are arranged around the Haversian canal are actually arranged in three different manners inside a bone. They can be circumferential lamellae, concentric lamellae, interstitial lamellae. This is a little much, but you have to know it. I'll take you into it, you will understand it. Now, this is a ground section through a compact bone. This is periosteum, this is endosteum. Orient yourself, okay? Lamellae that run beneath the periosteum are called circumferential lamellae. Circumference, right? Circumferential lamellae. Lamellae that are arranged around a Haversian canal concentrically are called concentric lamellae. You can see so many concentric lamellae in this image. But you will find that in between them, there are broken bits of Haversian systems called interstitial lamellae. What is this? Why are they broken? Why are they not arranged in the form of a Haversian canal and lamellae around it? Because we come back to the same point, that bone is constantly changing. So these were actually Haversian systems. But at some point, body decides that I have to get rid of this and I have to create new bone. So these are the ones that are getting resorbed. They are being resorbed and new ones are being formed over here. Think about it. Interstitial lamellae are lamellae that are undergoing resorption, and Haversian systems are the lamellae that are being formed. Okay? Right. So my three types of lamellae are circumferential lamellae, concentric lamellae, and interstitial lamellae. Sometimes such exercises help. Circumferential lamellae, concentric lamellae, interstitial lamellae. If it works for you, use it. Right. So these are the lamellae. What is a cement line? The outermost line in a Haversian system is called a cement line. That's where bone formation first started. Right. This is another very beautiful section. Come, let's take a look, okay? So here's a Haversian canal. These are the concentric lamellae around it. And in between, there are broken bits of lamellae called the interstitial lamellae. Again, one more image, real slide image. Again, Haversian canal, concentric lamellae, canaliculi, beautifully visualized, and interstitial lamellae. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I do. I love this. Bone is one of the most entrancing slides. It's so pretty to look at. It literally glows under the microscope. I hope you like it too. Right. So now this is a longitudinal section of compact bone. By the way, students, there is a video on how to draw diagrams of transverse section and longitudinal section of compact bone, which is released a few months back. Do please watch it in case you are finding it difficult to draw in your histology journals. Right. So now we are studying the longitudinal section of compact bone, again a ground section. So will it be stained? No, it will not be stained. It's ground on a grinding stone and it's fine chip. Only it is longitudinal section. So what do I see? I see Haversian canal. I see lamellae running parallel to the Haversian canal this time. I can see that the Haversian canals are connected to each other by a connecting stalk called the Folkman's canal. It's a V, but you call it as a Folkman. Okay, it's called as a Folkman's canal. Folkman's canals are often found obliquely, connecting the Haversian canals to each other. Okay. The Haversian canals can branch and anastomose. Folkman's canals will be connecting them to each other. So let's differentiate. How will you know? Is this a Haversian canal or is this a Folkman's canal? So Haversian canals will be surrounded by lamellae which are running longitudinally parallel to it. Folkman's canal is not surrounded by such concentrically arranged lamellae. Haversian canals are longitudinal, Folkman's are oblique. See, lengthwise is always Haversian. Oblique is always Folkman's. Haversian can branch, Folkman connects. So now here you can see how this is Folkman, but this is Haversian canal. In between the lamellae around it, of course, you find lacunae containing osteocytes and connecting to each other through canaliculi. That's the LS of a compact bone. Okay. Osteocytes, remember, are not really seen because in the grinding process, they've fallen off. Also remember, this is how nourishment will pass from Haversian canal through Folkmans to the next Haversian canal, through Folkmans to the next Haversian canal. And then from the Haversian canal, it oozes out through canaliculi to the edge of the concentric lamellae. Okay, that's how nourishment passes through the entire bone. Right. What is spongy bone? Spongy bone is that which is found at the ends of bone. It does not have Haversian system. Of course, does have osteocytes in lacunae, and the spaces in between the trabeculae contains bone marrow. Okay. So what did we learn? We learned how to define bone, its functions. We talked about the types of cells, the type formation of bone, woven and lamellar bone. Then we talked about fibers, collagen fibers and their organization. In matrix, we talked about organic and inorganic matrix. Then we went on to talk about a gross section of bone. What is periosteum? What is endosteum? Then we took a transverse section of compact bone, ground section to be precise, talked about osteon. Then we talked about compact bone and briefly touched upon differences between Haversian and Folkmans canals. Finally, we touched briefly upon what is spongy bone. So this is what bone is all about, but we still have applied anatomy left. So what is osteoporosis? We just discussed how slowly the bone becomes very fragile and there is an increased risk of fractures because the bone mass is slowly reducing. This is often seen in females when they reach menopause. Vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin D deficiency impairs mineralization of osteoid, causing the bones to become soft and poorly calcified. Okay, this is why the bones begin to bend as we see rickets in children and osteomalacia in adults. Parathormone is a culprit for removal of calcium from bones. Always be wary of this parathormone. Osteogenesis imperfecta is a genetic condition which causes bones to have abnormal type of type 1 collagen, causing the bones to become very brittle and can fracture easily. Okay. Finally, let's come back to the question we started with. Why are these men on the boat on long voyages looking so sad about life? What happened? Why are their bones paining? Their bones are paining because their diet does not contain vitamin C. So there was this captain, the story goes that there was this captain on a boat who decided to go on an island, picked up oranges, and half his sailors were made to eat oranges. Within a few days, the sailors began to get better. And that's how he conducted a clinical experiment, a research. Okay. And that's how we understood that oranges would replace vitamin C, helping bone formation back again. Okay. So in fact, British sailors were called as limeys because all of them always had, lemon or citric fruits on their boats. Interesting? Yes. But basically, that's why you learn microscopy, because some things which are not visible are still extremely important. To be able to understand them, sometimes stories and sometimes reality makes you a better doctor. Okay? Enjoy the story, but remember that vitamin C is necessary for strong bones. We keep talking about vitamin D. We never talk about vitamin C, isn't it? Think about it next time. Okay? All right, students, if you enjoyed this lecture, do please like, share and subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon. Thank you. See you in my next lecture.